Well, I'm back. This is part number 2 of Thin Places, our weekly watchword. If I'm not mistaken, this is weekly watchword like number 24. I think that's right. And weekly watchword number 24 for 2024, Zion House of Prayer. Part 1, we talked about the reality of thin places, or places of encounter, or the importance of meeting God at places where He's invited us to actually be there. And so Covenant Center International is one of those places for me. And I had an opportunity to be here today with Norman, Pastor Norman Benz. Papa Norman is what I've called him over the years. And I just wanted to give you a Father's Day thought from this thin place for me. And I'm going to refer to it as the rest of the story. Many of you will be old enough, you will remember Paul Harvey and his commentary on the nightly news about the rest of the story. Well, here's the rest of the story for me today on Father's Day 2024 at Covenant Center International. It was a while back, and we were having one of the burns at Abide, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I had this beautiful young woman walk up to me at 1 a.m. and I'm fading in and out of sleep, and she gets my attention, and she's standing there in front of me, and she says, "Are you Guy Glass?" And I said, "Well, yes, I'm Guy Glass." And she said, "I just want you to know that you are my spiritual great grandfather." And I'm like, "Okay, where are you from? Who are you? And remind me of the spiritual lineage," because our family DNA values long-term faithful relationships. In fact, one of the greatest expressions of fruitfulness is long-term faithfulness. And so she said, "Well, my name is Destiny and my last name is Medina." And I said, "Oh, wow, you must be Nestor and Damaris's daughter." And she said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Well, I know Nestor and Damaris. They were discipled by Chris, Pastor Chris at Bow Down, and Pastor Chris was discipled by Bill Hobbs from Urban Youth Impact. And the first person that I ever really discipled in my ministry after I got out of seminary was Bill Hobbs. And so Bill Hobbs was a spiritual son. Chris Tress was a spiritual grandson. Nestor and Damaris were great-grandchildren. And then now I'm blessed to be looking at Destiny as a spiritual great-great-granddaughter. But here's the rest of the story. In 1987, I met Pastor Norman, and Pastor Norman began to father me. And so I had the privilege today here at Covenant Center to put my arm around Pastor Norman and say, the rest of the story is, Papa Norman, you actually have spiritual great-great-great-grandchildren. And maybe many more than what I know, but Destiny is a part of our family line, and our DNA, we value faithful friendship over the generations. And I think it almost brought Pastor Norman to tears and Pastor Judy when they realized that their fruitfulness and their stability over the years is a real testimony to what God is doing here in this region and beyond. So I just want to remind you today, in number 2 of thin places, there are thin places where we build relationships and we become spiritual parents and spiritual grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents. And that's part of what the family of God looks like. So let's experience that joy of expressing our fruitfulness with long-term faithfulness over the decades.